Hi folks, Debbie Ray here, the gardener wife, with a midsummer tour of the kitchen garden. It's not looking too bad, but it's certainly not perfect. We just had extreme heat, 99 degrees and more, definitely over 100 on the heat index. And I managed to come out in the morning and do some rough weeding, but there's still a mess out here. First bed is the raspberry bed, and as you can see, it is still producing some raspberries coming along. And along the front where I planted some teddy bear sunflower seeds that did not come up this year, I transplanted in these brown-eyed Susan flowers. They're supposed to be brown-eyed Susan vines that I started from seed, but they don't look like the vine. They look more like just a tall annual version of brown-eyed Susans. So let's step over the bunny fence here. Oh look, I still am ready for capturing Japanese beetles. Their activity has gone way down since the heat wave came through. And here is the herbs and edible flowers bed. So I need to cut back the blooms from the mint. I've left over there those yellow flowers. That's just lettuce going to seed. Back there is the garlic, most of the garlic that I have in here. And as you can see, I've already cut off the scapes, harvested those, and made garlic scape pesto. I did leave one growing out here so that you can see what happens. The stem straightens out and it starts to form this bloom. So that's pretty fun. I also have a blackberry bush in here that whose berries are just only a couple are starting to turn black, and eventually I want to move that out to the Hugelkultur bed when we finish that, along with other berries. Now here on the shed side of the garden is the strawberry bed. And most of the strawberries are June bearing and have stopped producing. I have just one ever bearing here that still will pop out a few strawberries now and then. I've left lots of borage in this bed and around the rest of the garden because it's a great companion plant and it attracts pollinators. Hello, pollinator, with your knee sacks full of pollen, or thigh sacks, whatever you call them. Looks like you've got giant thighs. Over here I've interplanted a couple cucumbers, bush cucumbers, and I was trying to grow more up here. They haven't come up, but the radishes that I put up there are popping up, and I'm hoping the radishes here and my other cucumber bed will help repel cucumber beetles. The next bed on this side is what I call the broccoli bed, and I've already harvested the heads of broccoli. Right there is where I cut it off, and now it will produce side shoots, enough to do little stir fries and stuff. More borage in here and some sunflowers coming up. And this bed is interplanted with other things too. All the spiky things, these spiky leaves, those are leeks that I planted in lines around this bed. Along the outer edge of the bed is Swiss chard. And this is just flowering kale. I like to put that in the corners of the beds, transplant them into fall containers later. But there, the Swiss chard is going along nicely along the edges, and in the middle, in between the broccoli plants and the leeks, I am growing beets, the beets that I planted early, and I'm just leaving them there until I want to use them. Now the next two beds on both sides are the tomato beds, and you may notice that I have planted fewer tomato plants this year and I've spread them farther apart because I always get hit with fungal diseases, and I knew it would be worse this year with all the rain we had in the spring. And also treating them with Shield Plus, and so far so good. I'm really happy with how healthy the tomato plants are looking. I've kept up with pruning them, especially getting off the bottom leaves that might be touching the soil. In between these tomato plants, I've interplanted celery. Lots of celery, and then a few more alliums are in these beds, shallots and onions. And I always do other things that are in the same family with the tomatoes. So I put a few of my extra pepper plants out here and here. And in the back of this bed, always back by the fence, is where I put a couple tomatillos because they grow gigantic. And oh look, we did get a new fence this year, so my antique farm tools are standing out very nicely now. So, and all 6 of these beds are edged with marigolds, just starting to bloom. The last 2 beds, hello Mrs. Green Beans, are the legume beds. And I start with the snow peas in early spring, I think mid-April this year. And then I fill the rest of the beds with other cool crops, kale and radishes and stuff. And the snow peas were getting eaten away by birds, you know, so when they were about knee-high and the beans were starting to come up, I finally tried some of this reflective holographic tape to keep the birds away, and I have to say this is the best thing I have tried so far. When it moves in the wind, it makes a noise that startles me as well as the birds. It sounds like there's an animal rustling around in here. So that has been very effective, and my snow pea plants did recover and have been producing snow peas for me. The downside is I haven't been able to really clean up and weed this area because I'm afraid of uprooting the snow peas. So these beds, and now too, some of the beans are growing intertwined with the snow peas back here. I'm starting to get red beans on this side. Where are some? There they are. So I did pull up a lot of extra borage plants I had up front here, and I can plant some bush beans maybe down there. Okay, and back the other bed across from the broccoli bed here is what I usually call the cucumber bed or the salad bed, because I'll put lettuce in the front in this bed. It was filled with lettuce and radishes, and I've harvested and pulled out most of the ones that were bolting. I haven't gotten to this part yet. And I do have just a couple of the cucumbers that I planted in here have come up already. And now I'm trying to decide if I should cover them to protect them from the cucumber beetles. I have more radishes planted here, also in the hopes of repelling them. But if you've visited my garden before, you know that I usually like to put these bikes up in the cucumber bed to use as the trellises for those cucumbers. And haven't figured out if I want to do that again or cover these with shade tunnels. So that's the kitchen garden, how it looks right now in July 23rd. I'll give more updates later. Thanks for watching.